Okay, this is a 2-frame mating nuke, and it's getting pretty late in the summer, and I'm done mating queens for myself. So as far as a mating nuke is concerned, it's not very useful for me anymore. Going into late summer and then looking towards fall, this serves very little purpose to me, and whatever is in this would need to upgrade to a 5-frame nuke and possibly expand, but it's already late for that idea even. My other hives, I have 3 hives large enough to go into winter already, and a 5-frame nuke that needs to expand some. Whatever's in this happens to be a queen that was superseded twice, and both times that she was superseded, as she was being superseded, I realized that they were making supersedure cells, and I saved her both times, and I moved her into a different nuke and started her over with it, and she grew out a new colony. And as they got large enough, they superseded her again. So this is her 3rd strike. For whatever reason, they don't like her. Every time they build up enough strength, they supersede her again. So she serves very little purpose to me. I'm keeping her in this just to keep her ovaries active so she'll lay eggs, but she's not real good at laying eggs either. So I'm trying to come up with a reason to keep her around. I could pinch her right now and be done with it, but instead what I'm planning on doing is they've got 2 frames completely drawn out. They've got brood, they've got honey and pollen. They're drawn out completely. They have no potential to expand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take at least one of these frames out and give it to one of my bigger hives that could use the help. And I'm going to give them an empty foundation. And the goal is to just let these bees draw out comb. And I'm going to feed them heavily in order for them to draw wax. I've found that these small 2-frame mating nukes are very efficient at drawing out wax on new foundations, as opposed to a bigger hive where they're just kind of spread out sporadically. They'll draw a little bit of comb here and there, but in this they don't have any option. I'll give them 1 frame that they can work on. The other frame's all drawn out, so whatever sugar water that they drink and turn into comb will be concentrated on that 1 empty foundation. So as an experiment, I'm just going to keep her around and see if I can get them to make drawn comb for me. So that's at least one resource that I could use. The small hive beetle. Being only 2 frames in this hive, she's got it laid up really well. She's got this either capped or it just hatched out recently and it's full of eggs, and the eggs are just turning into larvae. This would be the frame that I would let them keep because it has capped brood on it. In fact, they got a little bit of foundation they could work on yet. So I'll let them keep this frame. I need to look for the queen and make sure she stays with this nuke. She used to have a dot on her, and that dot had worn off. It shouldn't be this hard to find her on a 2-frame nuke. I'm thinking that she might be inside the box. She's definitely in the box, crawling around in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the frame that I'm going to shake off. While both frames are out, I'm pretty fortunate the queen's not on these frames, so I can leave both these frames out for the time being. She's in the box. I can see her. I'll shake this frame off. And since she was loose in the box and all those bees were shook off in there, I want to get one of those frames back in there right away so the queen doesn't have any reason to crawl out of the box. Now I've got all the bees off of this. She's got it laid up really well. It's just not very far along. This side has some larvae. But it's fully drawn. They don't have any potential. They aren't giving me anything from this mini mating nuke. But this is a really valuable resource to me. Just the drawn comb itself. It's nice and straight. So if nothing else, if this mini mating nuke for the rest of the summer and going into fall can provide, even if they provide 1 or 2 of these per month, that's a pretty valuable resource just to keep her around. What I need to do before I close it up, give them another brand new foundation to work on. And I'll document and see how long it takes them to draw a comb and at what rate. There's basically 2 frames of bees, but only 1 frame. So now whenever I put a jar of sugar water on there and feed them, and hopefully they'll go through this pretty quick. The quicker they go through this, the more productive they'll be drawing wax. I expect they'll probably drink this in about 2 days. So I'm going to take this other frame and run it down there and put it into a different hive that could use the full frame of eggs. That'll boost them. And this hive will now be, its sole purpose is to draw comb. I'll start documenting how long it takes them to draw that out. Okay, this is 48 hours later. I'm going to check and see how they're drawing out that empty foundation, the brand new foundation. And see how much sugar water they've drank in 48 hours. Okay, from here, the middle section of this, they've got the cells started to where it's almost, this area right in here is actually deep enough the queen could lay eggs in this section here. But they do have one spot there that they're drawing out sideways. If you find that in time, like this, and you wound that wax about that much, they'll chew that up. What's damaged, they'll chew up and redisperse, and then more than likely that section will get drawn out correctly after that. The rest of this, where they've just barely started on it, you can tell they're going to draw that out correctly, but you want to catch those areas that are started wrong pretty early and fix them. their main objective is to draw wax. I don't really care how productive they are as a colony. Their priority resource that they're providing me is the drawn wax. So this is the first 48 hours. That's not too bad. So what I'll do is I'll put this other frame back in just like I had it. And after another 48 hours, I'll flip it around and face it the other direction. So I'll put it in like this, and then 2 days from now, if it's getting drawn out pretty well, I'll put it back in like this, and that'll get them to draw out the other side. I'll check back again in the next 48 hours. Okay, this is day 4, and when I checked this on day 2, the sugar water had about that much sugar water left in it. And I put that jar back in there on day 2, and I left it. I intended to come back and put a full jar of sugar water back on it, but on day 2 they had that much, and this is day 4. I just realized that I had done that today, so just a little bit ago I put a full jar on it. But they went probably 1.5 days without any sugar water. So from day 2 through day 4, I don't think it's going to be a fair analysis on how much they can draw out between that time period, but we'll go ahead and do a day 4 check. There's not much change between day 2 and day 4, and I believe running out of sugar water probably on day 2 would explain why they're not drawing out very much right now. It is better, but without sugar water, and this is late August. This is the last day or so of August. It's almost September. So they're not really in the mood to draw out wax anyway. If it was springtime, they'd have all of this drawn out real quick. Probably in 4 days they'd have this side absolutely drawn out, and then I could flip it around. I intended to flip this on day 4 and face it back in like this. And if I do that, these bees will move off of that empty comb and go back over to this side, and this side will get stalled. So because of my sugar water mishap, not feeding them, I'm going to have to keep it faced back in like this. find their way back to the hive. Alright, I'll give that 2 more days and check it on day 6. Okay, this is day 6. On day 4, I gave them a full jar of sugar water, and this is 2 days of drinking, and it's all gone. And remember, between day 2 and 4, they didn't have any sugar water. So day 1 and 2, they had sugar water. 3 and 4, they did not, and 5 and 6, they went through this jar. So it's a little bit unfortunate. There's 2 days in there that they didn't draw comb. This is September the 2nd, I believe. So it's pretty late in the year and we're just coming out of a dearth. We should be getting goldenrod flow here pretty soon. There's a little bit of pollen. And they've got it back filled with nectar, which is, that's fine. I'm not concerned about them making a brood frame, because they have a brood frame with a lot of capped brood on it. And this hive, it's kind of a dispensable hive anyway, so I'm just using them to draw comb and experiment on how fast they can draw comb out in this 2-frame nuke. So that looks pretty good. It's actually got some weight to it because it's all backfilled. So that was day 6. I'll check again at day 8. Okay, this is day number 8. And they went through all of their sugar water. There's eggs on this frame already, so this is eggs in that section. There's eggs there in the middle. There's the queen. Right under the queen is some eggs. You might be able to see her lay an egg. So anyway, instead of waiting for the queen to lay an egg, this frame, this side of it's got a lot of nectar and pollen and eggs. So this is, and it's all real even. Of course, this corner doesn't have anything on it yet, but the other 75 to 80% of this frame is all drawn. It's kind of shallow on some of this, but obviously it's deep enough for her to lay eggs in it. So if she lays eggs in it, that prioritizes them to finish drawing it out. She's looking for a cell to lay an egg in, so she may find one there. She sticks her head in, measures the hole size, checks to see if it's prepared for an egg, and depending on the size of the hole, that determines whether it's a drone egg or a worker egg, fertilized or unfertilized. So far the experiment looks really successful. There's the queen here. I'm hoping she'll lay an egg on camera. She's looking in one, looking in another one, another one. She's looking for them pretty hard. I think she might find one. There she goes. Her back end goes in the cell. She's squeezed all the way down. She's laying the egg now. She's got a lot of attendants around her anticipating her to come out so they can take care of the egg. She's still in the cell. She's coming out now. Now those nurse bees are going to stick their head in there and check out that egg. They can smell it. We got several nurse bees checking that cell out right now. And she's getting ready to lay another egg. There she goes. If you notice my thumb, there's several bees licking my thumb. They're probably getting some sweat. There's the queen. So I'm going to put it in facing like this. But before I do that, I'm going to check this other frame out. So if you remember on the last video, the bottom corners of this side was not drawn out very well. And they're starting to draw those corners out because that's their only direction to expand. These two-frame nukes are pretty efficient at drawing comb because there's not too many options for them. They have to go on one of these two frames. I'm going to spot the queen real quick before I put her back in. Okay, she's on the top. I'm going to face it in this direction this time. This is day number 8. 8 days after putting that empty foundation in there. What I'm going to start doing is when I put the jar in there, that jar has been completely empty 48 hours later. Now, my suspicion is it's probably empty 36 hours in, and for the following 12 hours it's just empty. So I'm going to start checking the feeder only every day. But I'm not going to open up and check that frame except on the 48 hour, just like I've been doing. So I'll keep the sugar water on there more regularly so they don't run out. And then they're going to keep drawing comb. So 8 days in, they've got one side. I'd call that one side 80% done. They'll keep working on it a little bit, but they're going to prioritize that inside of that frame from now on since I've refursed it. I'll check back again on day number 10. This is day number 8.